The title that you have chosen for this meeting, Wholesome Living for a Wholesome Nation, Road to 2022 Elections and Beyond, is probably the most accurate way of capturing the ongoing debate in the country and what is going on in the minds of all our people. Every time we come to this point in time, people keep asking questions. Will we come together or will we come apart? Will we have peaceful elections and will we be together as a country, or we are going to witness cases of violence such as we have in the past? And Kenyans are right to think this way and to ask these questions because we've had challenges in the elections we've had in the past. Sometimes our political rhetoric and campaigning has not been the most peaceful, and people are right to fear that we may have a challenge. The first task, I'm advised by my colleagues, the heads of the security agencies, the first task of a Minister of Security, anytime you get an opportunity in public, is to say this: the state of security in the country. Other than the few challenges we have in the northern part of Rift Valley, the constant threat of terrorism that lives with us as we go along, skirmishes we have in Marsabit County, which I'm going to talk about briefly, by and large, by the grace of the Almighty God, our country is safe and secure as we move forward. We've come from our past when we experienced a lot of problems. I was telling His Grace that it's very human. When things go right and we're going well, people forget where we've come from. And people forget the experiences we've had in the past. Nairobians even forget that before Uhuru Kenyatta took the oath of office in 2013, there was a time when bombs were going off in matatus on Thika Road. And there was a time when you would not be confident enough to stand at the bus stop because you didn't know who was next to you. The level of investment that the government has done over the last 9.5 years in the security sector has yielded tremendous fruit. And what are the indicators? I'll pause here and tell you something very interesting, which I narrated to His Grace when we arrived here. Yesterday, in the afternoon, all of us saw a clip doing rounds in social media of a group of men beating a woman somewhere in Nyanza province. We spoke, the Inspector General and myself, and we immediately reached out to all our colleagues in the security sector. The Inspector General asked the Regional Police Commander in Kisumu that whatever happens, we must get a hold of these people. And we agreed that we will pull all the stops and trace these people and provide a good opportunity for them to meet with the law. By 6 a.m. this morning, we had all of them in police custody. And I believe we are going to provide an opportunity for them to meet with the law. Because Kenya, we've come too far as a mature society to witness that level of beastly gender violence against the women in our society. We will not tolerate it, we will not accept it, and we will face it with all the force that our institutions and the law gives us. And that's an indicator of how our system works. How soon are you able to address issues? How soon are you able to resolve problems? Preparing for the elections in 2022 is something that the President, in his capacity as the chairperson of the National Security Council, ordered way back in 2018, because we needed to be better prepared than we have been in the past. In his own words, President Kenyatta said, we must do everything within the powers of the offices we hold to ensure that Kenya goes through the 2022 general election peacefully. We will not suffer the indignity of being leaders associated with bungling a transition. And since then, the President has remained faithful, and all of us, in terms of the resources that we have put in this. We have increased our numbers in the last about 6 years alone to by over 20,000. We have trained new managers of our security sector. We have trained several special teams, and I'm very well advised by the IG here to draw a line on what I can say in public and what I cannot say in public. We have invested heavily in acquisitions and getting new resources for our security teams. We are more equipped than we have ever been since independence in terms of managing and dealing with the security sector issues. We have enhanced collaboration across agencies. One of the reasons why we suffered in the past is because there was very weak interinstitutional engagement. The President, through the all-of-government approach, demanded that we create a multi-agency framework of addressing security in the country, which means we bring together all security institutions under one roof, we plan together, we share information together, we periodically review our work, and we make sure that at every corner of the country, regardless of the security unit you work for, you are on duty to guard the country. And that is why you have noticed it's easy, for example, when hardcore criminals or terrorists escape from prison, not many countries in the world are able to actually get those terrorists back before they cross the borders of the country. And all this is tribute to the resources that have been put in this sector. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to outline briefly some of the things that we have done to prepare for the general elections, but I need to say this. Dear Grace, I thank you sincerely as I say this. The Anglican Church has a rich history. You will not write the history of Kenya's governance development without providing a special place for the Anglican Church. The leaders who have gone ahead of you, I need not enumerate all of them, have contributed heavily in the journey, the governance journey that Kenya has traveled. At every turn and bend in the history of our country, the Anglican Church has been at the forefront in making sustained, bold, objective commentary on how we govern ourselves. Whether it's from Archbishop Manasseh Kuria, Bishop David Gitari, Bishop Henry Okulu, the late Bishop Alexander Muge, Bishop Gideon Ireri, Reverend Chafet Gathaka, and all this, all the way to the leadership of the Most Reverend Dr. Jackson Ole Sabit. The Anglican Church has not wobbled, the Anglican Church has not been in doubt, and the Anglican Church has not spared even us in government in terms of saying what needs to be said. Your Grace, I want to tell you sincerely, for this administration, for this president, for this government, we are fine with all commentary about the work we do, because we work for you, you pay us, we are your employees. And we welcome all the comments that you have made. We admire some of the positions that you have taken, especially on peace and reconciliation, on integrity in public service, and on focusing on service delivery to various areas. I have had occasion before, when I served as the Minister of Education, to work very closely with the Anglican Church on several reform issues with the Church. So I thank you for the work that you have done as the Anglican Church. But Your Grace, let me also say this very sincerely. It's very rare. This is the second or third time I'm coming before the Anglican Church community such as we're doing today. Your interest in engaging government, instead of talking at government, your interest in conversing with government, as opposed to constant criticism of government, is the stuff that builds our country. We would be the most irresponsible group of leaders if we did not take you seriously and if we did not turn up when you call. Because there is no greater way of demonstrating interest and love for our country than what you are doing in this hall this afternoon. Because you are meeting here to look at the future of our country. And it is out of conversations such as we are going to have here that we are going to build a great country and we are going to be a great nation. As I said earlier, I cannot thank you enough. But in my small way, I ask my colleagues in government to also continue to pray for you and to also be responsive so that when you call, we turn up. So as I said, we started preparing for elections about as early as 2018, 2019. Increasing the numbers is one thing. Training our officers, we have done more than we've done in the past in preparing our officers. Building an intelligence framework. The numbers that are with the Inspector General, the numbers that are with the Commissioner General Prisons, the numbers that are with the Director General KWS, the numbers that are with the Director General Kenya Forestry Service, all those are numbers that are available to support the IBC to mount an election. In addition to that, as I said, we required equipment. Just last week, I flagged off a set of brand new vehicles because the President has demanded that before the elections, every Deputy County Commissioner has a brand new vehicle. And what that means is that in some counties, you have 4 or 5 vehicles that are going to be used by national government officials who are moving around the country. There would be no possible excuse for not going to the people and addressing their problems when they arise. Transport problems in the security sector are now a thing of the past. Through the vehicle leasing arrangement, there was a time when wananchi were told, hakuna mafuta ya gari, nunulia polisi mafuta, and so on, nunulia police full scap. The President has fought this so hard. That is how, to ensure that we have manned all parts of the country, President Kenyatta has appointed over 600 new chiefs and assistant chiefs to create new areas of administration that are closer to the people. Just recently, the public service promoted 6,000 of those administrators to new ranks to give them new responsibilities. Put up a new scheme of service for national government administrators. And the President insisted that we must give these officers the dignity they deserve. So they have field allowance and they have AIEs. So that when you go to the offices, they don't tell you, they don't have full scab to write your problem. And we've constantly stayed on this trajectory. I need you to take note on this, however. We've done all this, and our security budget has not increased. I am going to answer a certain question before I end these remarks. So the focus has been to modernize the security sector through the acquisitions we've had, the equipment that we have, providing a new scheme of service for us, allowance for our officers to increase their confidence and support them. And in addition to that also, as I said, ensuring that we equip them to move even in dangerous places. The result is that I think, as my colleagues have said, the Inspector General himself has said, we are ready to support the IEBC to conduct the general elections. One of the innovations that we have done in government since 2018 is to map the country, map every corner of our country, and look at areas that are likely to be vulnerable to intercommunal challenges. And we have embedded in these areas structures of information gathering so that we act in real time. When things happen, we are able to respond immediately. When an incident happened in Eldoret at a funeral, by the following morning, we not only had all those who were involved in that incident, but we also arrested them with part of the money they had broken in small 50-shilling notes. That is an indicator of how a system works, turnaround time and being able to pick out some of those challenges. I am very proud to report to you that since campaigning started in this country, and you know that some political leaders have been campaigning for the last 4 years, going around the country campaigning. In all those 4.5 years of campaigning, we haven't had more than 5 incidents related to campaigns. That is another indicator that we are growing up as a country in terms of maturity. We are becoming more and more tolerant. And when we sense that there's going to be a problem, as a rule of thumb, and my colleague the IG here can bear me out, we brief everyone. Our briefing on security is not limited to government and the parties that are supportive of government. When we notice that there's information that is necessary for anyone, any political player to know, we brief them in advance. Some or most of them listen to our advice. They even change routes or change dates for meetings to avert conflicts between their supporters and their groups of people. So, does it mean that it's all rosy? The answer is no. You have noticed yourselves that we have challenges in our speeches. We have various challenges, but I'm going to outline those that I think it is my responsibility to tell you. Like the prophets of old, those of us who happen to be in positions of responsibility, it's important for us to say things as they are, so that we are not blamed later on that we didn't say them. What are the greatest challenges I see in this year's election that we need to be worried about? Number one, an unprecedented level of voter bribery. Yes, you have seen, political leaders moving around, massing groups of people and giving them money. Some of them are actually caught on tape, asking wananchi to queue, and they're just giving them money to attend meetings or to do certain things, ferrying people from one point of the country to another. And let me be even more practical. A parliamentary candidate in a constituency in Nairobi, and this is something which happened even to my staff, over the weekend during Easter, was moving around in that constituency from social place to social place. And everywhere he went, if he found people queuing on the butchery queue, he gave each one of them 200 shillings. You may count yourself unlucky if he didn't find you, and you don't come from that constituency. Moving from social place to social place, giving out 200 shillings, 500 shillings, and so on. That is a danger that I see in this election. Unprecedented commercialization and voter bribery. Now, let me also tell you something which is ugly, but it's a fact. The result and effect of what we are seeing, because that is not your money. That cannot be your hard-earned money that you are distributing in that manner. If we are not careful as Kenyans, let me say this today in public, if we are not careful, by the time we are done with this electoral cycle, we will have laundered criminals into our elective institutions, even up to about 40%. Money launderers, wash players, criminals, drug dealers, and all those, because they are the only ones who can access that amount of money. We will launder them into our elective institutions. I like the title of this conference. We are looking at the 2022 general elections and beyond. What will happen beyond? What will happen beyond is that we will have elected these men and women whom we will have laundered, as I said, or who would have laundered themselves into positions of responsibility. And you can actually forget your country in a case like that. As Minister of Interior, I am not shy to say this, that one of the wars that I have fought as Cabinet Secretary for Interior is with gambling and gambling institutions. It's with firearms and firearm licensing cartels. When we started these cartels down, we moved the firearm dealerships in the country from about 33 to just about 9, because we removed the whole lot of them. Many of them were briefcase carriers, who, even if you went down the act itself, they don't qualify to be a firearm dealer, leave alone the idea of having a firearm. There was a time, as a country, we were subject of discussion in the British House of Commons, because companies associated with gambling that some governments had already called upon were thriving here and laundering money and being used as conduits to launder money. I have fought that war, like I fought the war of examination cheating cartels, but I will tell you this. These people are the only ones who have that kind of money that they would give around like that. They will be in our elective institutions. They will be writing laws for you, and they will allow themselves to allow that gambling and all those things to thrive in this country. So I think I have a responsibility to tell you this. That is one of the serious challenges we face in this election, and let's be honest about it. 2, of course, we started early campaigns. The law prescribes when campaigns are supposed to start. We have been on a campaign mode for over 4 years. The effect of that on development in the country and productivity is real, and you can see it. But it isn't our responsibility to call that out. It is the responsibility of the independent institution conducting elections to do that. But that goes into sometimes reducing the effect of institutional respect, as it were, because when the law prescribes one thing and we do another, the truth of the matter is that over a period of time, we are denigrating the law and creating a culture of impunity. I can see that if we are not going to be firm in some of the things we are doing, this level of impunity may continue and it will hurt our country. 3, an unprecedented abuse of social media. We've done our best. I know someone is going to ask me the question, what have you done? Most of the notorious abusers of social media, IG can bear me out here. We have numerous cases in court. Some of them are out on bond 8 times, 9 times, 10 times. But you see, as my brother Joe Musheru said, as a country, we chose democracy. We are not going to be an administration that reverses the choices that this country made. We are going to remain a democratic institution. We'll keep listening to each other in the hope that those of us, and I believe we're in the majority, who are interested in harmony and social order, will fight this problem of abuse of social media, fake news, and all sorts of things. Finally, in terms of the challenges, I may be wrong on this, but this is a view I want to offer as a public servant and as somebody who has been in this role for several years. The debate, the campaign debate about the future of our country is actually not happening on the campaign platform. And I want to offer this view. I may be wrong, but this is my view. If you see the turnout in the primaries, that's indicative of one thing, that either A, the public is bored, or B, the public and the political leadership are walking in different directions. Because you don't see excitement. You see big rallies, but you don't see them translating to people queuing to vote in a primary and so on. It means there's something we need to fix somewhere, that we are either at variance with the people we purport to lead. One reason why I think this conversation on the campaign has not been as exciting and has not been as responsive to the needs of the country as it ought to be is because for Kenya, in my view, if you asked me, and I'm a public servant, I'll be very candid with you about this. What are Kenya's 3 critical problems? I'll tell you the following. Number 1 problem is corruption. Number 2 problem is corruption. And number 3 problem is corruption. We are not going to fight poverty in this country and succeed if we don't address our challenges related to corruption. My brothers and sisters, every crisis we face, the other day we were dealing with fuel shortages and movement of fuel across the country when private companies move into cartelism, which is practical and understandable because they control the sector and they hoard fuel. How did we get there? There was a time an organization that was created in this country called National Oil Corporation. The government at that time thought right, and we actually should go back to that. The government should have a leeway in some of these principal sectors to mediate a situation where cartels seek to strangle the sector. Because if we had a vibrant and effective working National Oil Corporation, they would be supplying fuel and selling fuel at a lower price, and the cartels will not be able to exact the impact that they were exacting on us, to the extent that as government we have to resort to tough action to bring them to line. But what happened to the organization? It was looted clean, and because of corruption it died. We have to address this issue, and it is going to be an issue Kenyans must focus on in this election. The conversations we are having about poverty are fine, but we are not going to fight it and deal with it if we don't address the corruption in this country. Those of us in the public sector need to be very honest and candid and tell you the challenges we've faced over the years. I have been in 4 ministries. Since I'm addressing religious leaders, at least I am bound to be sincere. I have served in 4 ministries. There isn't any one of them where I did not come face to face with cartels, so that cartelism and the culture of corruption is what really messes up our country. Whether it is in the textbook sector, in the education sector, there was a time when all of you who are here used to have ceremonies called book harvest in schools. That time, government has put tax money to schools to buy textbooks. And when I came face to face with these people and asked a very simple question, probably 7 out of 10 textbooks used in schools are published by 2 institutions, Jomo Kenyatta Foundation and the Kenya Literature Bureau, both of which are owned by the government 100%. Why do you need middlemen to go to our bookshops and bring books for our children? The books and the money that sustains them are ours. The children are ours. Why do we need someone in between? We save billions of shillings, and no longer now do we talk about book harvest and those kinds of things of looting and fleecing parents across the country. And many examples I could give you wherever you go. We have to face this problem, my brothers and sisters, and hiding behind high-sounding phrases is not going to help the situation. That is a conversation to be had, and it's a conversation to be faced. I think it is also going to affect how this election outcome will be. Because we have seen very deliberate efforts to influence critical actors in this electoral process. Sometimes efforts are made, but we are on guard to ensure that those efforts do not succeed. Finally, as we move forward, we are prepared. I said the other day when I was interviewing with the nation that all of us should relax. I think the investments we have made through formal campaign organizations, whether it is public institutions like NCIC, partner-supported campaigns like through Uwiano program, we have made sufficient efforts to make the case for peace and stability in the country. And as we move forward, we are prepared to support the IEBC to conduct a free and fair election. We need it because it is important for the development of our country. Let me say that every effort you have seen us work on recently, whether it is bringing about institutionalization in the border sector, by assisting them to create circles so that we are able to address them, is all intended to ensure that they are not a readily available tool to be misused by negative political players so that they can destroy our country. A lot of effort has gone into this, and I dare say, by investing honestly, by spending budget resources diligently, this government has defeated some of the challenges we used to have in the security sector, because what bedeviled us, and I think our president said this before, is corruption, especially in the procurement in the security sector. And when we overcame this challenge, we are able to spend the resources and we get the acquisitions we need. I can get armored personnel carriers for police officers in difficult places, and so they are able to charge at criminals and they're able to deal with them. In every indicator I can give you, every one of them you will ask me, every one of them, we have registered significant growth. The numbers of our people on the ground, the numbers of incidents, the numbers of injuries and losses, and the kind of successes we have registered. We don't announce every day. The IG will not announce every day because we will scare people very badly. How many acts of terrorism, for example, are disrupted because of the hard work of these men and women who never sleep. We remain awake so that you can sleep, and we remain vigilant so that we can serve our country. Your Grace, members of the House of Bishops, the entirety of the clergy listening to me, ladies and gentlemen, I want to say again that by the grace of God, we are prepared to play our role and play it effectively. I invite all of you to continue to partner with us. Your Grace, what you're doing is fantastic. This is what makes Kenya different. When we sit with our leaders, such as we are doing here, to listen to advice from them, I encourage you, Your Grace, to continue doing this. I request for your support so that we have a free, fair, peaceful, and credible general election. Continue to pray for us as a ministry. And again, please pray for our men and women in uniform. I will not end my remarks without saying this. The most frustrating experience for every minister of security, or for me, what really breaks my heart, is when I have to go to receive the bodies of our young police officers who have died in contact, especially with our terror organizations. My heart is even more broken when I meet the widows of some of these young people. Since 3 years ago, the Inspector General and I have been hosting an annual meeting. And I would like, Your Grace, I'm going to invite you to this year's. IG, please make sure His Grace comes to this year's meeting, when we hold prayers for the widows of our officers who have died in battle. It is a heart-rending exercise. It's painful. It's hard for you to live there and do anything else. See some of those young women with 6-year-olds, 10-year-old kids, and we've been doing everything we can. And I want to ask you that in your churches, in your cathedrals, pay attention to these people. Let us support these families, those that we come across, and uphold our security sector people as they do the tough job of guarding our country. These people, wherever they are, you don't know how many people we have in Boni Forest, how many numbers we have embedded on our borders. We are a country that is surrounded by a difficult environment. But by the grace of God, our young men and women who are out there continue to work hard every day. And God has seen us through tough challenges and difficult challenges. That's why I believe that these two we will have peacefully and we will go through without a problem. With all your prayers and support, there's no reason why we cannot have a peaceful, free, and fair election, a smooth transition, so that we continue to build our country, the only home we have on earth, the precious gift that the Lord has given us, so that we can then prepare it as good custodians to hand it over to our children's children with pride and dignity. That when we were called to serve, we turned up. When we were given responsibilities, we discharged it. When we were asked to lead, we led. And when the call of duty came, we gallantly served our country effectively as it were. May the Lord bless you.